For the past few years, there has been one pedal consistently on John Mayer's pedal board that was the true definition of unobtainium. You couldn't go out and purchase it, you couldn't sit on Reverb refreshing your homepage multiple times a day, just hoping to find one showing up. This pedal was just impossible to get because there is only one in existence, and we're talking about the JHS pedals Box It Later. This was a custom one-off pedal that Josh had built for John at his request, basically cloning a very uber rare Dumble pedal that he had built called a Box Later, which acted as kind of an effects loop for an external pedal, as well as a clean boost function that it had also. This pedal was very cool to see. You've seen in John, there's part of the Paradise Valley studio sessions where he pulls out a bunch of pedals on a drawer. You actually see that pedal sitting there. And then John also did a post, I believe it was on Tumblr years ago, talking about his original unit that he has. And because it's so rare, it just made sense that Josh would build him a custom one-off kind of version to actually use on a pedal board in a way more pedal-friendly enclosure as well, while still doing that sweetening to his tone that the Dumble unit was known for.
This is the pedal rig. I'm a collector. I'm a
But now what is really cool with the JHS pedals NOTADUMBLE is that this 2-in-1 Dumble inspired kind of overdrive unit thing takes a lot of inspiration from the Box It Later, and we're just going to clip a little portion of the video of where Josh Scott is talking about the association to John Mayer and the Box It Later.
The very first section, the clean section of the NOTADUMBLE, is extremely special when it comes to Dumble style pedals. This is a unit that John Mayer had at a rehearsal, and he loaned it to me to reverse engineer it. It's called a Box Later. It's something that Howard Dumble made that wasn't an amp, and it was used as an effects loop inserter or a JFET clean boost. It's really cool. I cloned it, made the Box It Later, and you've seen this on John Mayer's boards for years and years. So that's exactly what this clean section is.
Now, I think this is really cool that Josh went out and gave us the clean boost circuit portion, at least from what it sounds like, of the Box It Later in the NOTADUMBLE. I still have a lot of hope that he would just actually produce the real unit for everyone, and you see him holding just either a spare enclosure or a prototype enclosure. And I know at the beginning of the video I said there's only one made, but I'm sure Josh and John have a couple of spares lying around. But yeah, this has been one pedal you didn't have access to. And now if you get a NOTADUMBLE, not only do you get kind of that more ODS style of sound out of it, but you get this kind of sweetener, clean boost sort of thing that a Box Later is known for. And a good friend of mine, Gabe Bergman, has actually played a real Box Later pedal, and he basically described it as it just improved the tone, made the amp so much more three-dimensional sounding, and the way the boost worked with the harmonics and just everything. It was a really cool unit basically, and it was something that you would almost consider leaving always on because it just did that sweetening to your tone, if that kind of makes sense. So this seems like a kind of very interesting pedal to actually go and purchase if you're a John Mayer fan, because it does that ODS thing, which is, you know, really incredible tones, but then it also has kind of given us a portion at least of the Box It Later. I wish if they kind of did the NOTADUMBLE thing and the Box It Later thing, you know, maybe do like an effects loop version at some point, I think could be really cool. Or like I said, maybe even just release a Box It Later kind of style of pedal that you could purchase. But if they're making one that's got part of the circuitry in it, there's hope that maybe, you know, eventually Josh would actually produce the Box It Later pedal. I'm sure maybe he's got to kind of talk to John about that sort of thing. I'm not 100% sure how that would work because John lent him the unit to clone for him, which he said it was at a rehearsal. I assume the 2019 World Tour rehearsal would have been when it happened because Josh was there and he made some posts about it, and that's when, you know, he was kind of, I believe, helping John as well out with his board and doing some things with the psychedelic amplifier machine for the I Guess I Just Feel Like tone. Some things going on like that from what I kind of have deduced or theorized. So I think that's kind of the timeline as to when Josh actually built the Box It Later pedal. And now, of course, we're seeing it come out in the NOTADUMBLE. And just a quick recap in terms of the Box It Later for you guys too. We first saw the pedal in the background in John's home kind of studio setup that he had during the, you know what was going on kind of in 2020, 2021, when they did the NAMM kind of call-in shows with Martin. And know that we don't
singing it better.
You can see it on the floor there, and then Dead & Company Summer Tour 2021 is when you actually would see it on the pedal board, and then eventually the John Mayer kind of gear community deduced what it was, and sure enough, that is actually what it was. We got confirmation last year in 2024, but the pedal has basically been on every single one of John's pedal boards since he got it, except for the Sob Rock large spaceship touring pedal board. That's basically the only time we actually haven't seen that pedal being used by John, and even some of the smaller boards like the Trio, for example, it was even present. So something he's clearly really loving, and it's become a big staple in kind of the post 2020 modern John Mayer era gear arsenal. And then in terms of the context that John is actually using the box later, it's a bit hard to tell. I haven't really seen a ton of footage of him stepping on it and actually using it, since it's also kind of mainly been a Dead & Company thing, more or less. I haven't seen him use it with the solo tour, even though it was on the board for the solo tour. It's kind of one of those things where every time you see a shot of it, it looks like there are cables going into the input and output for the actual effects loop portion of it, but whether or not it's a device that maybe needs just cables running through it in order for it to work or something, I don't know. That seems unlikely, but from everything I can kind of tell, it looks like John is always kind of running some sort of pedal in it. I believe the first time I ever heard it was from my friend the Linux guitarist, who theorized that maybe he had one of his drive pedals, like one of the multiple TS10s in that pedal, just to kind of, do something to the gain stage and kind of, provide some extra oomph to that kind of overdriven sound. But the clean boost element I think is really cool, and I'm sure it's something that John has been using as well. We just don't obviously have the information and not enough close of looks at him using it to really tell what is going on. But if you're a Mayer fan, I definitely think the NOTADUMBLE is a really good pedal, and the video that they made was brilliant. The jams sounded fantastic. Yeah, it was just really well done. The one at the end with the tape echo, I especially really loved. Josh always makes great stuff, and I think this is something that I'm going to have to purchase and actually experience for myself too. But just wanted to touch on the fact that you can get part of the box set later, which has been such a huge part of Mayer's sound and tone in terms of pedals, at least over the past few years. Always love the stuff that JHS does. It's fantastic, and I apologize for my absence the past little bit. I've had some stuff going on that just has prevented me from really having the energy to make YouTube videos, but this is something I wanted to kind of get back to and touch on. So until the next video, guys, take care. I'll see you on the next one.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.